really is a big game. Tottenham against Manchester United. Spurs looking like they've got a few players back.
Yeah, I mean, looks like maybe we are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we're hoping at this point it's not an oncoming train, as Ange would say. Maybe it actually is something we can reach out and touch, because Ange in his... he not in his press conference. In his he done a team news update with Tottenham, with the Spurs official media team, and he is saying the likes of Maddison, Udogie, Vicario, all going to be available for selection and all back in full team training, which is really, really encouraging. Brennan, Odegaard, Werner also are recently returning to training, and they're not sure if they'll be available for this weekend, but they are back on grass and they're back with the team. So they're also ones which very shortly will be back and available for selection. He said Brennan Johnson's even a slight chance he'll be available for the weekend, but more likely next week. He said on Van de Ven, Romero, Solanke, we're probably looking at 2 to 3 weeks with them. He said Romero's quad is healing slower than expected. And on Van de Ven, quite some interesting quotes on Van de Ven. He said, first of all, he said he just wanted to quash any sort of rumour that Van de Ven and Romero required surgery. He said it was never a discussion that either of them needed surgery. He said on Van de Ven that he obviously played that game against Elfsborg, and he did feel some discomfort. He does kind of reiterate, or he doesn't really confirm, but he doesn't say that he's had a setback. He just says that we're going for a different approach with Van de Ven this time. We're making sure that he's 100% right before he returns to training. And I'll just get you the direct quote because I thought it was quite interesting. He says, there's a few people externally looking at him and giving him some more guidance and information added to our stuff, which he can do differently around not so much the injury, but to help his body adapt to the extreme athlete that he is and can be. You always want to protect your assets, and he is a major club asset, and to protect his long-term career for the sake of a couple of weeks, I think is worth it. Just to confirm the full what he's been saying on Van de Ven, Solanke. He said, Mickey, Kuti and Dom, again, we're looking the next 2-3 weeks for them. They're going well. I guess with Mickey, we decided to take a different strategy with him. We just want to make sure he's absolutely right, talking to different people. He's working with different medical teams and rehab staff to make sure he's right. He's working well and feeling good, which is a positive. Similar with Kuti, we're just waiting. The healing in his quad is taking longer than we thought. He's going one more scan to make sure he's healed, and once we get that sign off, we should be good to go. Richie, again, similar to Maddison and Brennan, who had similar calf injuries, depending on how he recovers. Maddis bounced back really quickly, and it's only looking to have been 2.5 weeks for him. Brennan's been 3 weeks, so we're looking at a similar time frame for Richarlison, so about 2 to 3 weeks for Richarlison, which is obviously,
barring no more injuries,
which is not
no
bad.
more reoccurrence of an injuries, or no more of the current crop getting injured, in 2-3 weeks' time, we should have a full bill of health, really.
Correct. He also said that on Romero and Van de Ven, he said their return could be imminent. We're just waiting for kind of the sign off from the medical team on that aspect to confirm that they're fully ready to return. So I guess maybe it won't be too long, maybe, but it could surprise us in any week, maybe.
It's interesting what he's saying. He's had to go externally with Van de Ven and get some outside people looking at him. I mean, that does suggest that the medical team are just absolutely terrible if they have to go externally.
Yeah, I think maybe he just requires a specialist, because he's let's be honest, he is a very specific player. He's an outlier in this game in terms of his speed, his position, his height. There's not many players like him out there. So I think when it comes to someone like Van de Ven, maybe he does require specific things, which when they look at our medical team, is whatever you want to say about them, maybe he needs more specialized kind of treatment, or specialized kind of sort of training regimes and all these different things, and maybe that's what they're assessing at the moment.
Yeah, I guess so. In terms of Ange and moving forward and stuff, with these players coming back now over the next 2-3 weeks, with players coming back this weekend, now is the time, isn't it? Now is the time where Ange is going to be really judged by the naysayers completely, myself included. I've been very vocal in my opinions of Ange, but he's got from now until the end of the season to really change a lot of people's minds, doesn't he?
For sure. Look, if he's going to say this form is down to injuries and that's why we're in this situation, which I kind of agree with, then he's going to have no excuse. Once his injuries come back, he's got to turn this form around. But it's not to say he has to win every game now. Otherwise, because I don't think we're at that point yet where this team where we're capable of winning every game right now. Even when these
capable
players
of winning a lot of games, though.
Yeah, and even when we have these players back, as you say, who will see what condition they come back, and they have to bed themselves back in, and all these different things. But as you say, we're going to have one game a week for a bit anyway, up until Europa League comes back
Till March.
Till March. He's going to have the use of rotation. He's going to have players now as well, for better or for worse. Yes, they're going to be tired, but players like Bergvall, Gray, Spence, they're now options which maybe earlier in the season he might not have considered them as options to start in Premier League games, whereas now he should most definitely. So he's got real no excuse for players who are tired or anything like that when these players come back. And we have to see this form really turn around. And when it comes to Europa League, he has to really go deep in that competition. You're probably looking at he has to at least look. Obviously, I think the likelihood is if he wants to secure his job for next season, he probably has to win it. But he has to at least get to like a final or a semi-final to show that he can that we are capable of competing at that kind of level. That's what he's got to show, and in the league form has to improve on top of that.
That's the thing.
So I think he's got a big job on his hands to prove that he deserves to be here from now to the end of the season. But absolutely, now's the time to do it. And he's the next few months are going to be massive for him, because his job. This is like a second audition for his job in a way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as much as whatever I've said on Ange Postecoglou, and I feel like by this point he has probably been deserving to relieve him of his duties, I do also subscribe to the fact that he's got until the end of the season to kind of save his job. And if he does very well from now until the end of the season, I'll be the first one to come out and say, you know what, he actually deserves to keep his job. He had to go through a crazy time with the injuries. And if he can kind of prove a lot of people wrong, get consistent results from now until the end of the season, I'll be the first one to say, let's keep him on for next season.
Yeah, and that's why I'm hoping he can prove a lot of people wrong. He can prove that he is capable of managing at this level, and he is capable of getting us to perform at the level that we have seen at times, maybe not consistently, but we have seen Tottenham reach a really good level of performance when we're at our best. And that's what I think when we are our best, I think everyone loves it, and everyone enjoys watching Spurs, and everyone is thrilled when we're at that kind of level. So that is what we've got to. That is what we've got to reach, 100%. And there's part of me that's excited for now to the end of the season. There's a lot to fight for. It's a shame that we're out those two domestic cups, because as I say, if we would have just got through one of them, we'll just give them that extra bit that we could be fighting for. But it's not the case. But all eggs in that Europa League basket, we've still got that trophy that we're hunting for. And if he wins it, then the reality is he's going to be our most successful manager since Keith Birkinshaw. So that's what the aim is right now.
Yeah, which is mad to think about, most successful manager to a manager that left in the 80s, which is nuts. But in terms of this game specifically, Tottenham against Manchester United, it's a team that we've been pretty successful against this season. 2 games, 2 wins. Battered them at Old Trafford, and in the cup a few weeks ago, 4-3 in a up and down game. But I thought we were more than enough value for the win. If we look at the form of the two teams coming into it, that actually surprised me. Man United have won 4 out of their last 5 games, have they?
Is that right? Well, I'm guessing what's included in that?
Yeah, they have, because they've beaten Leicester, they've lost to Palace, they've beaten FCSB, Fulham and Rangers, so 2 games in Europe.
Right, yeah, fair enough. And what I would say is the Leicester win, they got obviously last-minute goal, which was offside. Very lucky win. The Fulham win, they were not great in that game either.
Another last 10-minute winner.
Another late winner, and they just weren't great. Albeit, credit where credit's due, defensively, they did seem to shape up a lot better in that game. Rangers, another game where they conceded a goal late on and ended up scoring off the back of it, but again, wasn't so convincing. So as they have been getting wins, and look, results do seem to be turning, so fair play. And as you can see, they're 2 goals conceded in the last 5, so defence definitely seems to be tightening up, that's for sure. But still not totally convinced by them in terms of, are they really turning it around? Like, what I'm obviously they've scored the same amount of goals as us in the last 7, but I look at their attack and obviously hopefully we're getting players back, and obviously we're getting players in the front line like Tell going to be playing in this game. And look at their front line, and apart from Diallo, I'm just like, where are these? Where are they going to hurt us? It's going to be difficult for them. But look, credit where it's due for them, because they are starting to get some wins, and that's easier said than done.
And also, you look at it right. Just looking at their away form specifically, they have had some fairly impressive results in their last few away games. They went to Craven Cottage, beat them 1-0. They went to Anfield, they got a point there as well in a 2-2 draw. Yes, they went to Molineux and lost 2-0, but then they went to the Etihad and won 2-1.
And they went through the Emirates in the FA Cup.
Yeah, there's that as well in penalties. But I was talking about specifically about their league form. So I mean, with their defensive structure, no matter what you say, their defensive structure has improved since Amorim has come in. Since that has improved, I feel like with Spurs, we've found it hard to break down these kind of structures, and I feel that could be a case again this weekend.
I would say their defensive structure in recent weeks has looked a bit better. I agree with that. I think when he first came in, they were still shipping a lot of goals. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was the case straight away. But I think right now, when you're talking about their recent form, they seem to be a bit tighter at the back. Albeit, I watched that game when they played Southampton. They could have easily conceded a lot more goals than they did.
They seem to be saying that against everyone against Southampton.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, it's fair. Obviously, lost 2-0 at home to Crystal Palace. Obviously, we beat them 4-3 in the League Cup, albeit they did make a few changes in that game. But I do think Martinez injury is going to be a big blow for them. I thought he was actually getting in some really good form. I thought his performance at the Anfield was brilliant. Scored a brilliant goal in that game. Obviously scored the winner against Fulham, but now he's done his ACL, so he's going to be a massive miss. But one player who's going to be making his Premier League debut is Dorgu, and I do believe he could give them a different element on the wing backs, because
rapid, isn't he?
That was one thing which I looked at their team, and especially when we faced them in the League Cup, and I was like, they had Mazraoui and Dalot there, and I'm like, they are heavily focused on those wing back areas, getting forward and attacking. And if you don't have players in those wing back areas where if they get to the final third they can hurt you, then it just means that they got these players high and wide, and they're just going to leave spaces because these guys aren't going to do anything. And that was what happened. They got high and wide a lot against us, and they just didn't do much, and it left those big wide spaces. But now they've got someone like Dorgu there who, on his debut, I know he got hooked at half time, but some reports suggesting he played quite well in that first half, or showed flashes anyway. He's someone with a lot of pace, as you say, as well. Has a bit of a can also pick out a pass in the air. I'm not sure if he's much of a goal threat, but when it comes to setting up chances and his crossing and stuff like that, he does seem to create quite a few chances. So all of a sudden, they do have kind of a threat there, partnered with Diallo's in good form. Garnacho is being a bit hot and cold, but he's there. Xerxes does seem to be improving a bit as well in terms of his hold-up play. You got Bruno there as well. So all of a sudden, I think their attack is probably going to be in a very different moment when we face them in the League Cup.
Yeah. I don't understand why Dorgu went off. Maybe it's a fitness thing, but he seemed to be one of their shining lights in that first half.
I didn't watch it, but that's what I've read.
And as well, a lot of Man United fans saying he was one of the only positives to take from the game. And, the pace that he was showing, he looked absolutely rapid, And I think it's something that we could struggle against this weekend, because you're looking at potentially some of the spaces that we leave open on the wide areas. They're going to have to, if they focus on those areas and really attack them with strength, it is somewhere where, can be our Achilles heel at times.
Definitely. I think when teams play wing backs, especially when we've played teams who against five at the back. I mean, ironically, Man United's one of the few teams that we didn't struggle against when we were playing five at the back. But I think usually when we do play teams who play that wing back system, we have struggled because they have that wing back very wide and very high up. And it leaves our fullback with a big question mark, because they've still got Garnacho there or someone in that kind of pocket. And our fullback, a lot of the time, there's a lot of coordination that needs who picks up the wing back, who picks up the inside, and then whoever picks up that inside forward, you got another question mark, who's going to pick up the centre mids. And there's a lot of coordination that needs to be sorted out. Obviously, we've had a week to sort that out, so I'm expecting better results, but we've had struggles with that previously. Maybe if it's going to be an interesting decision. We'll talk about it in the lineup, what he does, Ange, if Udogi's back. Does he go with Porro? Does he go with Spence? Now they've had, these players had a week break as well. Is he worried about Porro being these players being overplayed? But with Spence being in great form, can he drop him? So I do think in these kind of games, especially against a wing-back, I would prefer someone like Spence, just because I think his recovery pace and his ability to cover that space is going to be better for this kind of game than someone like Porro. Albeit, I think Porro in the game against United, I think, he was involved in a few of the goals that we scored. So, and we know that his ability on the ball is still, I still think on the ball, Porro's, with his passing range and things like that, is better than Spence. But Spence, that ability to drive with the ball, his pace, I think his recovery pace as well, and in just his general form, deserves that spot right now. So he's got a decision to make, Ange Postecoglou on the weekend. But I think Man United, coming into this game, it'd be interesting to see how they approach it. I do think they're probably going to try and win the game, and I think they need to. But are they going to approach it similarly to how they did the Fulham game, where they're just concentrating on being very, very tight and kind of concentrating on not giving up the opposition any chances and relying on kind of set pieces? Or are they going to approach it a bit like how they did when we played them in the League Cup and kind of going at us and leaving those spaces in behind?
Yeah, I do think they're going to wait for their moments, to be honest. I feel like they would have seen that might be a way to beat Tottenham, is just wait for their moments, and we're going to leave gaps at some point during the game, and then they'll try and exploit it at that moment with the pace of Dorgu, with the threading of the needle for someone like Bruno Fernandes. But I do think both teams will probably go into this feeling like they can get a result and quite confident. But with us, we just need to get that win in N17. I can't believe how long it's been since we've won at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Was it Aston Villa when we beat them 4-1 was the last time? It feels like a world away at the moment.
Yeah.
When we last won here in N17. After that game, I remember doing an instant match reaction with you, and I said this place is a fortress.
Well, we had a great home record then, yeah.
And we haven't won since. And some teams that have come to Tottenham since then, the likes of Wolves and Leicester, and we just can't seem to get any sort of result over the line. And now, with a few players returning, we just have to get the win by hook or by crook this weekend.
Obviously, one player who did a lot of damage against us at the Lane and has been in decent form is Amad Diallo. And he is one player I'm worried about, because he's kind of a player who's can kind of create something out of nothing, because he's a spark. He's a little tricky customer, and he's got a really good left foot, and he's getting that consistency in his game. He's one of these players who can just pick the ball up, and if you're not on him and you're not making sure you're going stride for stride with him, he can get away from you, and he can beat players, and he can really cause you problems. And obviously, he changed the game when he came on in the League Cup, and he got, I think, it scored 2 goals. He scored 2 goals? We got 1 goal, definitely, but he definitely upped kind of the pressing and stuff like that. And after that, I think for that last half an hour or 20 minutes, we were really struggling to contain him. And I'm pretty sure he's going to start in this game. And yeah, it's another thing to look at for Ange Postecoglou when it comes to, do you want to put a doggy straight up against him? Spence has done well against people like Salah. Do you just keep him there for now? I think Diallo's definitely one where if we can keep him quiet, then I think we go a long way to making sure Man United are contained.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been such a clutch player for them this season. In all their big wins, he's been pivotal. He's been absolutely pivotal for them. So I agree. I mean, when you're looking at their forward options, he's the only one that you sit there and be like, oh, I'm actually frightened of this player. Everyone else, and which is a far cry to what Manchester United, just think about the attacking talent Man United have had over the years, even after post-Fergie, It's just madness to think Man United, the great Man United, are in this kind of state where Amad Diallo is the only player that you're kind of frightened of in their front line. And it's interesting to note as well, Kulusevski and Amad Diallo are actually very close friends. They came through the ranks at Atalanta together. They were schoolboys together there as well. So it'll be nice to see them on the pitch, and there'll probably be some sort of embrace after the game. But he's the only player that you're thinking, wow, we're actually up against it here. So I completely agree. You keep him quiet, and you're going to keep them majority quiet. In terms of us, we've seen do different kind of various things over the past couple of weeks, where against Liverpool, we didn't have too much ambition of going forward. Against Aston Villa, we tried to get back to what we're good at in terms of going forward. with players only just about coming back, do you think there'll be enough energy levels to play kind of the way we want to play?
For sure. And I also think Man United right now, as much as results are improving under Amorim, they're still as well in their process. In the last 2 weeks, we've played against the likes of Villa and Liverpool, who are much more well-drilled and well-oiled, I should say, in terms of their approaches, and they've really took advantage of our disorganisation. Are Man United in a position to do that? I think that remains to be seen, and I do think we're going to go for them. I think we know we're at home. We know we've got the fans behind us. We know that it's been so long since we've been at home, and I also think having these players back isn't just going to give the fans a lift, but I think the players a lift. I think the players on the training ground, it will give them a lift, and I think they'll see that I think it should add a new energy to this team. Not to say, we're not going to have our difficulties. I'm sure Man United will have moments where they hurt us, and I'm sure it might be a bit of a basketball game. But I really hope and believe that having these players back and having them just around the team, obviously Maddison, one of the vice captains as well, him being available. Doggy, we know what a big player could be. Vicario as well, he's very loud on the pitch, and he can be a bit of a leader. So having these players back around and just being available to play, hopefully shows the players there is some light at the end of the tunnel of what's been happening, and should just give that shot on the arm that we need, hopefully.
Yeah, and we did get that kind of shot on the arm when we played Chelsea, right? When we played Chelsea earlier on in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Van der Ven and Romero were surprise inclusions in the starting lineup. And there was such a good feeling around the place. It feels like, everyone just got completely up for it straight away, because everyone coming to the game was like, we're going to get battered in this game. How are we going to cope without Van der Ven and Romero? We see them in the starting lineup, and suddenly, do you remember we were there inside the ground in the concourses when the team got announced, and everyone just started to get up for it, and they were buzzing, and the songs started coming out straight away, and then straight away 2-0 up within like 15 minutes. Obviously, it all fell apart after that. But if we can have that like kind of initial bounce and we can get a few early goals in this game, I don't think we give this game up like we gave the Chelsea game up.
Yeah, and it just gives us more options off the bench as well, which we've been really short of in recent weeks. There's even been some games in recent weeks where Will Lancashire was our most experienced player. That's how I'm saying. That's how down at the dumps we've been. So, with these players now added, we'll go through our predicted lineup, but you're going to have a lot better players available to come on and freshen things up as well midway through the game. So that's really, really positive, and it's an exciting prospect. But I'm reading some quotes here from Amorim. There's been some shots fired a bit in his press conference. He said, I'm a huge fan of Ange. He's a good guy and a very good coach, and I understand the connection with me and Ange, but with respect, I'm at a bigger club with bigger pressure.
Yeah, well,
shots fired.
The reality is he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but he knows what he's doing by saying that in a press conference, surely. Yes, he's right. Obviously, Man United are in a big club. When he says bigger pressure, though, in a way, is that true right now? Because aren't our goals fairly similar right now?
But I think the pressure at Manchester United is always going to be right at the top and to be winning titles. I don't think that's the pressure at Tottenham.
But in terms of that's true. But I think in terms of what coming into the season, you'd probably say the aims are similar.
To get into the top 4?
Yeah, that was probably the aim for both teams.
I still think I agree that maybe the short term aims in terms of starting the season and stuff. But I think you always got to think about Manchester United's past history, recent history with Alex Ferguson, one of the most, if not the most successful team in English football. The pressures are always going to be a lot more at that club than they are at this club.
I guess the difference between us and them in that respect is we dream of one day challenging for a title. Their expectation is we should be challenging for a title. That is the difference. But what my only point is, right now, I don't think the expectations are that dissimilar in terms of the pressure of what to achieve. It's probably very similar, I would say, right now.
Yeah, yes and no, because I just think because of the club that Manchester United are and the sheer size of it, then the expectations of the fans are always going to be when are we going to next get in that title race? When are we going to next win the league? Spurs just dream of it. We just dream of it as a fan base because we've never been there.
Yeah, but as well, right now, Amorim, I know he's in recent weeks they've been winning a few games, but he's losing a lot of games similar to Ange, but he also, I know he's only just joined. I guess it's a bit different, but is there any fear like he's going to be sacked right now? Because he's also kind of in a weird way. I know Ange is also losing, and he's kind of been given the stay of execution, but Amorim as well. There's no real fear. It doesn't matter how many games he loses at the moment that he's going to be sacked. Now.
I think it's a different case. Obviously, Ange, this is his second season, halfway through his second season, or just over halfway through his second season. Amorim was brought in halfway through the season, and it was said within the club, within Manchester United, within the hierarchy there, that they didn't want to bring him in because they didn't have the players to implement his system. That hasn't changed. They still don't have the players to implement his system, and they didn't do enough as well in the transfer window to get anyone in. You look at the options that they have just in the forward line. They've got 4 options only in the forward line. So I think there's an acceptance,
though, wasn't it, to let go of Rashford?
Yeah, but that's because he doesn't believe Rashford is putting in the required effort in terms of wanting to play for Manchester United anymore and whatever. That's not the question here. Is that Amorim needs a transfer window, a summer transfer window, to get his players in through the door, and I think there's an acceptance within Manchester United that that's the case. And what I'm saying is that it probably was a mistake to bring him in halfway through the season when they've basically built a squad to play a certain system, and halfway through they're just completely throwing that out the window and saying, "Look, play this system now." So I think they know that within the club.
Is there any league position that he could, outside of obviously relegation, which I'm sure if he gets relegated he'll be sacked, but is there any league position he could finish which could lead him not seeing in the second season, do you think?
I don't think so.
Even 17th?
I think even if they get 17th, I think they'll still kind of back him to change it around when they give him his players in the summer. I believe that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not certain. I'm not saying I'm not certain he'll be here next season. I'm not certain, like, if they were to really finish 17th and completely bottle out like at the end of the season, will they trust him to give him all that money for a second season? I think there'll be big questions.
Yeah, I think you've got to understand the size of this job at Manchester United to turn it around. I mean, it's just been going on a downward spiral since Alex Ferguson left. It's such a massive job. It's such a massive club. And he has not had the tools to do his job. So I think I
agree with you.
No matter where they finish, they have to give him the chance to get his own players in and to implement his system.
I think the smart thing to do would do that. I'm just saying, in terms of how they look at it, is there a chance, like, if they do like lose a lot more games, will the hierarchy get itchy feet? Yeah. Will they think, are we really going to invest? What's it required? Hundreds of millions it's going to require to back this guy when, he just finished 17th. Are they going to do that? There's a chance that maybe they won't.
I think it'll be a very stupid move.
No, I agree with you. I'm not down. I'm saying that I know they should. I'm just saying,
will they?
I wonder if because it is Man United, as you say, and they do have expectations, whatever they want to say. Unlike, so anyway, it'll be interesting. Maybe we can ask